Hey guys, welcome to our podcast.
Today we have Blue Gaydon on our podcast to get her opinions on all things fashion and sustainability. Blue is a brand and creative consultant known for connecting brands with artists and creative talent. With a career spanning 20 years, she has worked for major publications like British Vogue and Wallpaper before moving to the art world to build brand partnerships at MT Art Agency. They've become a leading voice in the fashion and business industry.
We're excited to dive into her work, her journey, and the insights they have to share. She also volunteers as a stylist for the Smart Works charity, which helps women get into the workplace. So, Blue, do you know of any sustainable brands that have changed the way we should shop?
I think there have been huge efforts on a lot of the brands that we have shopped from growing up. Obviously, I'm a lot older than you guys. And the newer brands coming up through the ranks. I think what I have really noticed, both on the the luxury market and down to the high street, is that we now are seeing a lot of transparency on origin of fabrics and location of fabrication, which I think is really important. People can do their homework. Less things are hidden. Some brands are better at this than others, but I think what I've really been impressed by is how the likes of people kind of from Net-a-Porter down to Zara, there's a pre-loved section. I'm not saying that Zara is where we should all be shopping if we are trying to improve our sustainability credentials, but there is what I'm finding really positive at the moment, that a lot of brands are selling secondhand, and that is changing the mindset about what new clothes and a new purchase means.
Yeah. So if we're talking about solutions to fast fashion, how can we stop that cycle? What is a trend that you've heard of recently that makes you optimistic for the future? So like maybe charity shops or like the upcycling.
Yeah, well, linking back to what I said, the pre-loved elements that we're seeing now on websites, I think people's obsession with vintage, which doesn't just play to the sustainability, but also plays to the more, you're getting a better deal. This idea of not having to always buy new really gives me hope. And I think this idea that the big powerhouses, whether they're big influencers or big, fashion publications, they are spotlighting those who are really trying to make a difference, and those brands that are really being accountable of how they're producing collections, giving huge kudos and industry recognition to those designers who are going above and beyond on the sustainability front. Stella McCartney, who led the way so many years ago, Gabriella Hearst, who's then made creative director at Chloe. There's been a real admiration and industry recognition, I think, for these people who are doing such hard work, and us all leaning into shopping from them and from those brands where we can.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. And I read somewhere like a couple of weeks ago, it was about these big kind of powerhouses and the big fashion houses, but how difficult it almost is for them to compete with trying to get in that spotlight, because with such Zara and all these fast fashion brands, they use all this really quick production where they can keep up with the trend and have that in their stores. But some of these big like fashion houses, they have that focus on sustainability and these timeless pieces, but it's harder to get that in there in time, and then the trend's over. So I think it's interesting that there is a spotlight on them, but it's so difficult like to compete in the industry because there are so many fast fashion brands which do it so much quicker and easier.
Following on, if you could change one thing about the fashion industry overnight, what would it be?
Oh, so easy. Plastic coat hangers and plastic, the covering thing when you buy something and it comes all in this plastic stuff. The idea of when I arrive, like even now, again, I'm not saying Zara is the place we should be shopping, but they have moved now from it's paper, the boxes are cardboard. It's this, when you get something from ASOS, it's in the plastic bag, and there's just reams of plastic bags and all of that. And that would be, if I could just literally change or ban one thing, it'd be like recyclable coat hangers and get rid of that plastic film.
Definitely, I think that's interesting. I think some people wouldn't even think of that.
No.
That's like the issue, but it's an interesting point.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Well, we've loved having you on here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.